The Redlegs, they find themselves in a position now where they've won 2 series. Yesterday, there was a fire, and it got put out. Shout out to Elly De La Cruz. I do not want his name to go unmentioned today.
No.
I will say, before we get to Frankie Montas, it was a little bit concerning when he walked up to the plate with a guy on second base, and he had already struck out 2 times in this game. But 109 miles an hour off the bat, a double. Elly De La Cruz strolls into second base, gets a big, extension of the lead, if you want to call it that, an RBI double. And all of a sudden, all is forgotten to a certain extent about Elly De La Cruz. So hopefully he continues to play well. I said this last night before we get to Frankie Montas. The depth in this infield is absolutely atrocious. And if we're being honest, if Jeimer Candelario is now hurt, which again, he kind of got banged up last night, got taken out. Here's the thing. I know Frankie Montas is on the rundown right now, and we're going to talk about him. But we do need to talk about, do the Reds actually oversell the fact that guys are okay? Because they did come out and say that Matt McClain's injury they weren't really overly concerned about it. They're just going to give him a couple days off. He'll get back to the grind. That turned out not true. We were told last year that Nick Lodolo was a guy that was going to probably come back. He comes back, re-injures it immediately, and then all of a sudden he's gone for the year. So I'm not suggesting for a single second that I'm overly pessimistic about Candelario, but it's something to keep in mind, something to be concerned about.
Sure.
So I know that's not on the rundown. We'll talk about Frankie Montas now because that's a bigger, better story maybe.
It makes me think Cincinnati's cursed. Every injury that happens this season.
Welcome to Elliott Rearing.
I think the city's cursed. I don't know what we did to it. I think it was the injury to Bo Jackson. That has to be it. That we injured Bo Jackson, one of the greatest athletes in the history of sport, and ever since then it's been misery. So I guess that's what I'm going to blame it on. But I can't take it. I can't take another Red season where my entire roster isn't healthy. I can't have Elly De La Cruz throwing balls during practice at one of our players, breaking his nose. He's out for 2 weeks. Can't do it anymore. Unfortunately, we had a player cheat. I'm not going to beat him up. I'm not going to
bring him up every show.
Yeah, you bring him up.
Yeah, but that's because you look around our depth and you say our depth in the infield is terrible, and one of the reasons is because one of the guys cheated. So yeah, that's tough. I'm just saying I can't do 70 players on the Reds roster this year again.
Right.
I can't do it. The past 2 seasons we've done it. 70 plus players on the Reds roster. So I'm hoping that's done. We'll see how we go.
Yeah, the Noel De Marte thing is really starting to hurt now. If it is true, if he is nicked up, because guys, you get hurt in the middle of a season at a professional level, you're usually not 100% even if you take the time off. So it's just hopefully he's not nicked up too bad.
Yeah, last night was absolutely miserable conditions in Philadelphia. For those that didn't get a chance to see, it was that rain that's probably so cold that it's very close to ice. And then on top of that, you have extreme wind conditions. And I think the real feel was 32 degrees. Just miserable. That really, God honest truth, is not baseball. I'm not trying to say for a single second that it shouldn't count or anything like that. But no part of that game last night was baseball. And I don't want to give too much credit to maybe the elements versus Frankie Montas. But last night, I think Frankie Montas, he went up against a good lineup in the Philadelphia Phillies, and I say got a little fortunate. Zach Wheeler threw the ball well as well for the Phillies, so I'm not taking anything away from him. But point is it's tough hitting conditions. And I do think that's a fair question. Reed, you've obviously played this game for a significant amount of time. Do you think when it's that cold, sleeting, raining, disgusting weather, does the advantage go to the hitter or the pitcher?
It's weird because when it's cold, it certainly goes to the pitcher. When it's wet, it goes to the hitter because then the pitcher can't grip the ball as well. So it goes both ways, but it is so funny. Every year we do these northern teams in April. Me and my wife are flipping back between the Reds game and the Cubs game yesterday, and both times she goes, "Why is no one at the stadium?" And I was like, "Are you watching the game? It's 20 degrees and wet. Who the heck wants to go watch a baseball game?"
That's right.
But these guys that are from tropical areas, the Dominicans, the Puerto Ricans, and Venezuelans, they want no part of the cold. No part of the cold whatsoever. We here from the northern part of the United States, we want no part of the cold. It's not fun.
No.
It's not fun.
No, it's absolutely miserable. And shout out to those guys for getting through that game. And whether or not there was a wedding playing tomorrow, and that's why the game was not going to be able to be delayed to be able to be played tomorrow. Shout out to Citizens Bank Park. So, yeah, it was empty stadiums, and that's what you're going to get until it warms up. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Frankie Montas, the one thing I take away from that outing is his mindset, quite frankly. And I talked about that a little bit last night on Chatterbox Reds. For those that don't know, we go live after every single game and discuss basically immediate reactions to the Reds. And I had just mentioned more than anything that I appreciate about Montas is he's a guy that didn't get a chance to throw the ball at all last year. Yes, he came back for an inning or two, but let's face it, he came off of injury, didn't get a chance to pitch all last season, and now he's faced with the idea of being this team's ace who, quite frankly, has aspirations and or realistic expectations of not only making the playoffs, but perhaps winning the division. That can't be, from a mental standpoint, that can't be the easiest thing to swallow, perhaps. But I will say, Frankie Montas looks like he's up for the challenge because he challenged guys last night, and he had said something last night post-game that I think, and I would like to think, that perhaps Hunter Green could also try to replicate, which is he said, I want to get guys out in 3 pitches or less. Now, that's easier said than done, of course, but I think last night that very much was the case. He was challenging guys. He wasn't, the guys that go out there and they seem like they're kind of nibbling around the plate or they're trying to make the perfect pitch every single time. At some point, just let your stuff do the talking. You're going to throw the ball over the plate. If they put it in play and they get hits, great. If they don't, then you're going to basically be very efficient. And that's what Frankie Montas has done the first two outings this season. Elliot, any other thoughts other than what I just mentioned about Frankie Montas?
My favorite part about Frankie Montas is, and I think you mentioned it, I don't know when. Time is whatever.
Oh, that brain of yours.
It's gone. I do
Never
like
was
how he
around.
attacks the zone. That's what I like more than anything. Again, I think he had 3 walks yesterday, but he's not going for strikeouts. He's going for outs in general. He wants outs. Hunter Green, and again, this is no knock on Hunter Green. Absolutely not. The 15 strikeouts a game he does, great. Love it. But there is something to getting outs as quick as possible like Frankie tries to do, or maybe he doesn't try to do. Maybe it's just what he does. And he said post-game, he was talking about it. He's just trying to be himself out there. Run the audio.
Heck yeah. You're saying, I feel pretty good, man. I feel pretty good. Just happy to go out there and, try to keep my team in the game and getting outs.
How tough was it to pitch out there tonight?
Little bit because the weight, but I'm the type of guy that until they called the game, I'm still locked in, I knew we was trying to get that game somehow today, so I was trying to keep myself, locked in the game and kind of have the mentality that it doesn't matter what time, I gotta still pitch.
What made you so effective this time?
Just getting ahead on the count. I feel like I've been doing a pretty good job. I'm doing that, getting, just like I said before, just trying to get people out with 3 pitches or less. That's my main focus. I'm not trying to strike everybody out. I know the quicker I get the guys out, probably the longer I'm going to stay in the game.
Where are you at right now compared to before the injury?
I don't want to compare myself to how it was 2021 or whatever. I'm just trying to be me this year. I'm just trying to go out there, like I said, and trying to put a good performance for this team. We have a lot of young guys here that they grind, they go out there and they're gonna get their outs for you. So I'm just trying to do my part as a teammate. Just trying to go out there and compete. And every time I step on the mound, just trying to give my all.
You could have told yourself though, you can't just compete, but to have 1 earned run in 10 or 11 2/3. That's all. That's really. You can't ask for much better.
Yeah, I'm. To be honest with you, I'm not trying. That's one of the things that I'm not trying to focus on. I'm not trying to focus on my numbers or whatever. I was kind of a little pissed off at the end of the game because for me, I want to go out there and go 6, 7, as long as I can. And I was kind of a little pissed off because I worked with two guys in a row, and I take pride of the amount of strikes I throw. I take pride on trying to get ahead on the count, and walking these two guys in a key moment, kind of like, me as a competitor, I was kind of a little pissed off on that.
As far as the team goes, take it.
So he's a leader. I mean, that's what he is. He goes out there, he dominates. He's pissed at himself for walking a couple of guys. He went 5 2/3 and dominated a lineup that, for all intents and purposes, is a bona fide playoff roster.
Yeah, and to be fair to him, though, I do think that what he had mentioned towards the end of that was fair. He had a chance to go 7 innings last night, and unfortunately he kind of got in a spot there in the 5th inning where he just couldn't get that last out and walked the last 2 guys, and David Bell really got himself in a position where he didn't have a choice but to take him out. But again, Frankie Montas, the mindset that goes with that. And I think it was also pretty nice and cool to see that he didn't get burnt by basically struggling there at the very end by Justin Wilson coming in and giving up a grand slam.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your whole stat line kind of gets ruined. And he mentioned something that also I think is relatively important. Whenever you're playing any sport, I think, for that matter, and you're going good and things are going great and you're in your best spot that you are as a competitor, you don't really worry about your stats. That's the last thing on your mind. But let's face it, if you played baseball long enough, you know deep down at some point you do get yourself in a spot where you do concern yourself over what your numbers look like, because there's this perception that comes with it. And then on top of that, that's the identity of how well or how good you are as a player, is unfortunately statistics. I've often thought if the statistics weren't a part of baseball at all and they just played the game, I think the level of play for a lot of players would go significantly up. But they do exist. You got to navigate those waters, and I do like the fact that Frankie Montas, whether he truly does it or not, I don't know. But I like the idea of him saying he's not really concerned about his statistics. He's just worried about competing.
You said at the beginning of the season there might not be an ace on this roster. Will you walk it back right now?
No, I'm not going to walk that back yet. I mean, we've had 2 starts. They've both been in April. His first start, again, not to sound like the super pessimist guy, I'm just saying the first start was against the Washington Nationals. And I'll say it with you. Ready? The Washington Nationals are trash. That's what they are.
They are.
They're
bad.
terrible.
They're bad.
And his second start was in the middle of a monsoon, okay, and half the players basically were bundled up in jackets. Not taking anything away from him. I love the demeanor. I love the mindset. He has to throw the ball over the plate, and he's done it. But I'm not going to sit here and suggest that he's an ace 2 starts in when he's not really done a whole lot. Listen, if you ask Yankee fans right now, hey, what do you think about Frankie Montas? They'd laugh. They'd laugh at the fact that the Reds signed him. In fact, they did laugh, I believe. So
I will go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say he did go toe-to-toe with the best pitcher in the National League yesterday and got the win. So, I mean, that's kind of ace stuff. That's kind of ace stuff.
I think it says something. And again, this is a roster, as Reed likes to say, full of question marks. Having a period like Frankie Montas has been over, I know, just 2 starts, but this is a sports talk show, so I'm going to over-exaggerate a little bit here. I do think it's big. I think it's a massive step for the Reds. If he can be healthy and be here all year, the Reds will be in good shape with Frankie Montas.